Okay, I'll do the super quick version of what I just said. Right. So, welcome everybody. I'm Ray Loy from Argonne Leadership Computing Facility, and Yasemin Gadar is also on the line. She's the Deputy Program Director for ATPESC. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the program and then move on to tips for applying. And our goal is to train the next generation of computational scientists to take advantage of supercomputers. And that has gotten more and more complicated as time goes on. And our current challenges are in the software environment in particular. So, okay, this is where I left off before I forgot to start the recording. So the program was founded in 2013. This is the 12th time we've held it. It previously was funded by ECP and now is funded directly from Argonne Leadership Computing Facility because of the end of ECP last year. So what do? We get you guys together in a room with about 75 top researchers from all different labs, universities, and industry. So over the course of the 2 weeks of the program, there are about as many instructors as there are attendees. So if you are accepted to the program, there are no fees to come. We will pay for most expenses related to travel and most meals while you are here. I'll talk more about the venue in a second. Who's the target audience? This has somewhat shifted with time, but the short version is anyone who is qualified with the prerequisites are invited, and that typically tends to be advanced doctoral students, postdocs, and early career computational scientists. And I think hope you have read already in the application instructions that you need to have some experience in either one of these three things: MPI, OpenMP, or data science frameworks, right? And the second leg of your application is that you need experience with at least one HPC system, which might be a cluster. It doesn't have to be a supercomputer. And you also need to have some concrete plans to put your knowledge to use after you attend the program. So all of these instructions, so forth, are documented on the website. So hope you just putting it here for reference. And there's an FAQ as well as the application instructions. So for those of you who are not from a national lab, I'll just mention that there are 17 DOE labs, and we are just one of them. But in terms of high performance computing, Argonne and Oak Ridge Leadership Computing Facility are where the really large capability computing facilities that are available for open science are. So we're in Illinois, near Chicago. And the third site that we work closely with is NERSC, which is at Lawrence Berkeley Lab. So it's over here. So, oh, sorry. It's in the Bay Area. It's in the little inset. So Argonne National Lab actually has several user facilities, right? So user facility means that the facility, for example, our supercomputer like Aurora uh, coming soon. It's currently in testing. That's a facility that researchers from outside of Argonne can access, and Argonne is providing it for the science community. There's other user facilities are the Advanced Photon Source, which is a very large synchrotron, the Center for Nanoscale Materials, which is actually attached to the building is attached to the Advanced Photon Source, and the Electron Microscopy Center. So all of these in the on my screen is covered by my own video is the ATLAS, which is the Argonne Tandem Linear Accelerator. So all of these facilities are um, uh, open for use under various grant programs for outside researchers. So where will ATPESC be held? It's not held at Argonne. Argonne is here. We're in the Southwest Chicago suburbs. There's a very nice venue that we've held it at called Q Center. It's in St. Charles, Illinois, so it's west of Chicago instead of south. Relatively speaking, it's about 45-minute drive from Argonne, in case you're wondering. Where it is in Fermilab is over here, so it's actually physically closer to Fermilab. This is last year's attendees and some staff, including yours truly. On one of the few times that we escaped the classroom and actually saw the sun outside. So what does the curriculum look like? Well, you can look back at the agenda online and for previous years also videos. But we generally divide it into these general tracks, most of which are single day tracks, but a few of them cover multiple days. So hardware architectures, we spend 3 days on various programming models and languages. There's a day on data intensive computing and IO, visualization, numerical algorithms, performance tools and debuggers, software sustainability, and machine learning. So in the chat, someone asked about the recording. Yes, we will post the recording as soon as possible, hopefully no later than tomorrow. And also the slides. So during the program, we arrange for access for the attendees to the ALCF systems, some OLCF systems and nurse systems, as well as, depending on the presenters, some of the vendors may have their own cluster resources, such as the Intel Dev Cloud, and AMD has a similar resource whose name I forget. So the whole point here is to broaden your knowledge about HPC and computational science. It's pretty typical for people to kind of learn aspects on an as needed basis, and our goal is to try to expose you to other areas that you may not have worked in yet. And then it is big part of ATPESC is to be able to meet in person with the lecturers to ask questions and discuss things and so forth. So moving on to how the mechanics of applying, I really suggest that you read the instructions pretty carefully. And when when it says things for prerequisites to attend, you should keep in mind that if they're prerequisites, then they're things that we are going to be evaluating with the materials that you submit, whether it's your statement of purpose or your CV. So you need to document as best you can those issues in what you submit. Right. So you need to submit you need to write a statement of purpose, right? So in there, you should talk about all of how you meet the prerequisites, as well as what your research plans are, right? So you need to talk about all those things, and your CV will hopefully support what you say there as well. And then we only take one letter of recommendation. So one common question is, can I submit 2 letters of recommendation? And the answer is no, because we have finite resources to do evaluations, and we have to keep the whole process fairly lightweight. So what I would recommend is that you pick the best person, in your own opinion, to comment on your qualifications, and it doesn't necessarily have to be your immediate, your immediate supervisor, although in most cases it would be. But there isn't a hard and fast rule about who it should be. You should be the judge of that. Let's see. And the recommendation, if it's not given privately, you will upload it along with your materials. But if your person who provides your recommendation would like it to be private, then they should send it directly to us. And then we will attach it in a manner that is not accessible to the applicant. And then we do everything through EasyChair. So there's a question in the chat. In the statement of purpose, can citations and references go on to a third page? I wouldn't count references as part of the length limit on the document. Yeah, so that would be okay, I think. So I touched on this a little bit because the instructions say, it talks about doctoral students, postdocs, and computational scientists. But we know that not everybody in the universe fits into that, that peg hole. So, if you're qualified, to reiterate, if you're qualified to attend, in other words, you have enough basic knowledge to understand the material as well as put it to use later, then you can apply, and you should just talk about your situation if it's something non-traditional or doesn't quite fit the normal mold. So just talk about that in your statement of purpose. Okay, I also touched on these, the requirements. So someone asked, what is the eligibility for computational scientists? I'm not quite sure what that means. If you're somebody who already has, I think the question is getting at if you're already kind of working in the area, are you computational scientists can certainly apply. I think you should, yeah, that's not an extraordinary circumstance. And I think the question, what if you're, I guess you could say if you're an early career person who doesn't have broad experience in computational science, you can point out what areas you have worked in and what areas that you feel that you could learn more about that would be useful in your area of research. Someone asks, do we have to meet all the requirements or just one of them? If you're talking about the requirement of MPI, OpenMP data science, it's only one. You need to show experience in one of the three areas. There's another question, can you submit the recommendation letter yourself or should it go through the recommender? Either way, we take them both ways. If the recommender wants to send it privately directly to us, they should email it to us. If they don't, if that doesn't matter to them, they can give it to you and you can attach it when you submit your application. So does supporting research on HPC machines count? Yes, that is certainly an area of people that can and have attended ATPESC. So we know that I'm trying to remember. There's a large movement of categorizing the area that you're asking about. So we know that people who work closely to facilitate the research are important in the ecosystem. Okay, so looking at the big picture here is that, the reviewers will be looking at your materials and, they'll be rating those exact categories, right? So they'll be rating these three eligibility criteria, how, do you either have experience in MPI or OpenMP or use of data science frameworks? So there will be some evaluation of that, and the more information, the more facts that you give in your statement and CV that are also supported by info in your letter of recommendation, then the better score you'll get in that area. And the same thing goes for experience in using a system to run simulations. So it's details are what matter. If things are very unclear, then people tend to get, scores that reflect that. And we also, as far as plans to conduct computational science research, we know that depending on where in your career you are, I mean, if you're still a graduate student, then we know that those plans may not be as firm as if you are already engaged in that research or finishing your thesis or something like that. But for your situation, you should have some clear plan of what you're going to do. So let me give some examples. Suppose MPI is your thing out of those. And just to back up, I mean, you only need to demonstrate some proficiency in one of these three areas, but if you have proficiency in more, then by all means talk about it. There's a question, if one uses software with MPI, Open MPI, does that count for MPI? Yes, of course, MPI is MPI. I mean, the implementation doesn't matter so much. But going back to the details, if someone says, well, you took a class on MPI, then, well, I mean, we don't really know how much you learned and, did it sink in and whatever, or some people say, well, I ran a code that uses MPI. Well, it's like, well, did you write any of it? Or, did you, modify the code? I mean, people often work on group projects where, you didn't necessarily write it from scratch. That's understandable. But if you actually worked on it, then maybe you added some stuff. You could talk about what you added, or you diagnose some problems with it, something that gives some tell us a story about how well you understand that area. So I just filled in the so if you said rather than say, oh, I took a class in MPI, and then you could say, well, I work on the such and such code. You could give a few small details about that. I implemented and tested some routines for, boundary exchange, and the communication pattern looks like this. And there's a challenge with such and such in this situation. And, after I coded it, I, found that it scaled well to, 1 million ranks, or it tapers off after 500,000 ranks, but I think I know why. This is the kind of discussion that would be uh, much stronger than some vague statements. So try very hard to um, give some uh, give some details. And we're also looking for details from the letter of recommendation to support anything that you say. But, we know that you don't have direct control, but the best recommendations are also recommendations that have particular details, right? So anyway, and right. As I touched on before, it's pretty common to work in a group on some code, or even your group may be working on a code that they are part of some larger community. For example, climate code or something like that. And so, just be clear about what you contributed or what your role in any kind of group project is. So, as far as the second requirement of experience on an HPC system, we don't expect that you have access to, Aurora or Frontier or something like that necessarily, right? We know that not everybody does. If you do, that's great. If you don't, well, if you're running on a cluster at a university or industry cluster, that's great. That's very relevant. We're looking for things like that you have some experience scaling, running with the mechanics of running things with batch jobs and stuff like that. And you just have some general programming experience running on, more than one CPU, that kind of thing. So, you know, but if your experience is an OpenMP, there are a lot of very, I guess you could say, very capable desktop systems that you can run many threads on, and so there's even the possibility that you could have something to say uh, as far as OpenMP goes. But the there, if you can at least report some experience on a cluster, I think that would be really great. If you're using some code, be clear if you are, it's sometimes people start talking about code projects that they're on, and it's not quite clear if somebody just else wrote it and then the person is just doing a bunch of runs with it. And there could be, useful experience involved with that, but it's not code development experience. It's more of, running, batch jobs and scaling, collecting scaling data and stuff like that. But just be clear about what it is that your experience is related to. Um, And give some examples of, core counts or node counts. I mean, it's a big, it's a big difference to, run on 2 cores or 2000, right? A lot of different things happen. So we want, to know how to interpret your experience. And you know, um, if you did any scaling studies, that would be great to talk about. If you look for any performance problems or even better, solved some, that would be good to talk about. Did you use a queuing system like PBS or something like that? That is, great experience to talk about. So anyway, details. And then the third primary category that applications are evaluated on is your plans, right? So the bottom line is that we are bringing you together with all of this material, and what we're hoping is that you'll go forth and use it in your research project, and great things will happen. And so that's what we're looking at. We don't, if someone is planning on leaving leaving the field, then it's not a very good time investment kind of thing. So, if you're, working on your thesis and you plan to, apply to a research position or something, in what area, you're going to stay in the same area, or maybe you'll shift to something, related or applicable or whatever, or if you're, looking for whatever it is, you just need to talk about it some. Um, and like I said earlier, if you're earlier in your career, it's understandable that some of these things may not be um, completely fleshed out, but you can, have a current plan, and everybody understands that could change. So hopefully all of you have already subscribed to our mailing list to get information updates. If there are any problems, with the submission process, or if there are any um, extensions or anything like that, you'll want to know about it. So sign up for the mailing list. And if you have any questions that aren't answered today in the Q&A, then you can shoot us an email and we will try to respond to it. But do understand there isn't an army of people, so we do the best we can. But and we acknowledge that we're supported by ALCF. Okay, so I will just open it up now. And I mean, I've tried to take questions. I think if I have missed any questions in the chat so far, uh, let me call it to my attention again. Okay, there's a new question. How far back does the CV have to account for? I would say from college forward. Do summer break gaps need to be explained? If you, um, uh, the short answer is yes. The gaps thing is primarily an issue for foreign nationals and applying for accounts and processing by the security office. So they wonder if there's a gap, what you were doing, and if you were working for somebody that is an issue. So that's, I would say if you took a 3-month vacation to read, the works of Shakespeare, then you should put something in to that effect. So just because someone's going to ask if it's not, you know. in that situation. I mean, usually people do something, so, but there's a question, what are the chances for industry partners that are engaged in ongoing research with ALCF and ANL teams? I would say they're good. I mean, we definitely have had people from industry attending. And there isn't, this is not exclusively for academia people. I mean, I consider the lab research to be semi-academia. I guess it's government research lab, but it's certainly open to people from industry, and some of our speakers are from industry as well. So we have a lot of collaborations, especially, within the high performance computing vendor area that are pretty critical to the leadership computing facility, moving forward with new machines and things like that. So is the 2023 agenda a good example for the 2024 agenda? Certainly it will be the basis. There will probably be some tweaks and certainly different dinner speakers. And there may be some adjustments, but we're still working on that. But yeah, I would say you shouldn't expect something radically different from the 2023 agenda. Sometimes, we remove or pare down some topics to give more time to others. But since we cover such a wide range of things, it's unlikely that there'd be something completely out of the blue. Okay, are there limitations for non-US citizens? I mean, yes, if you come from a state sponsor of terror, then we're not, you won't be able to get a computer account, therefore you won't be able to attend. But I mean, in general, no, there isn't any blanket, limitations for non-US citizens. I mean, large number of people tend to be at US schools, but they're not necessarily US citizens. Does that answer the question? Does experience with CUDA or GPU frameworks count for the? Yes, it certainly does. What is the typical time available between the evaluation of applications and the actual course? There's a calendar on the website for our anticipated timeline, and we strive to get the acceptances out on that timeline or earlier. Sometimes things beyond our control happen and we've had delays, but I think since we're not in the crazy time like 2020, that we probably should be able to hold to it. What is the acceptance rate? It depends on the number of applicants. So it can be somewhere around 1/3 is a ballpark. So yeah, let's see. Any other questions? So I guess this is maybe just talking farther ahead, but if you look at the FAQ, which has some more details about travel related things, it's not really relevant unless you are selected and are planning to attend. But just something I wanted to mention is that this is the government. There are a lot of rules about spending government money, and a lot of those crazy rules are related to travel, and they don't always make sense. And so, we're not trying to make your life difficult, but a lot of strange combos or whatever. There are a lot of travel requests that we're unable to do just because it's not us. The rules prohibit, reimbursement under various circumstances and stuff like that. So anyway, just thinking ahead. So there's a question, does doing benchmarking with different software for a specific job on a class project using HPC cluster count, does that count as experience? Well, sure. Yeah, that's experience. I mean, it doesn't have to be something you were paid to do. Um, it's just something you did. So yes, we will give, the question is, will attendees get a certificate for attendance? Yes, they will. Feel free to unmute if you like, although I'm obviously keeping an eye on the chat. So question is, will this year's cohort be of similar size to previous years, given the new source of funding? Are there other factors that determine? We're shooting for about the same size, which typically is in the range of 70 to 75. So where we fall in that is may be related to, just budget. So, but that that is the typical. Historically, ATPESC has been 70, but in the last few years, because we um, had, due to holding it virtually for 2 years in 2020 and 2021, there was enough funds to increase the class size slightly. So we had, I think, 74 last year. So the short answer is yes, similar. Okay, well, if there aren't any other questions right now, we'll wrap things up. And as I said, please feel free to send us an email. Uh, and oh, there's one more question. Still trying to figure out how deep the open MPI or uh, I think that's a typo, MPI knowledge is needed. Well, I mean, you don't have to be a 20-year veteran of coding MPI, but we'd like to see some experience that you understand at least the core concepts and have some uh, practical use of coding it and understanding it, right? There's more than a few hundred different MPI calls. Uh, Rusty Lusk was very fond of saying, he was one of the um, MPitch MPitch founders, I guess you would say. He was very fond of saying that there's somebody out there who has used for any given MPI call, there's somebody out there who has used it. But most people, only use a small subset of it, and they do just fine. So So there's another question. Using LAMPS, which has MPI implementation, or using MPI to write code. Well, I mean, the thing is, if you're using a code that uses MPI, I mean, one question would be, well, did you, modify it or do anything with the MPI itself? That, I mean, it is relevant to have used the app, but we're kind of trying to gauge in that category sort of your direct programming experience in some way or another, right? Right. If you took lamps and added something new that had MPI code in it, that would be of interest in particular. And if you just used lamps, that would be less interesting. Where will the video be posted at? It'll be posted on the webpage that not the well, we'll post a link on the webpage that the ALCF webpage, as well as on the for the event, as well as on the ATPESC application instruction page. And we'll send you, since you registered, we'll send an email out from the registration to tell you where it is too. So. Okay, I think we were kind of wrapping up. So, yeah, I was already going to close with saying we'll let you know by email about the video and the slides, and hope that you will apply. And some of you, I hope to meet in person at ATPESC in August. Okay.